Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Soulganize Your Life podcast. And I'm learning that the more that I Soulganize my own life, the more fun I'm actually having as a human. And I've noticed that the outer circumstances of life will stimulate us in two different ways. As a therapist, it is one, through the psychological ego, which we come in contact with a lot in therapy. And two, it's the divine soul connection to all that is. So, why is it important to know the difference? Well, this is where our guests come in because I believe they're invaluable. They're going to help us relate to this inner conflict that each one of us experiences within, and will give us ideas on how to integrate these two perspectives into one full, beautiful, messy human being experience. And today, our guest is Dr. Woodruff. He started out as a chiropractor, specialized, well, as he told me earlier, he started out in sports, but we'll get to that. But he was a chiropractor specializing in pain relief and became a leader and a visionary of Vibrate Away. And he's on his third book, and he has these techniques that I can't explain or understand, but it's really to help us all find new ways to relieve our pain and become whole and healed. So, we want people like Dr. Woodruff on our podcast, pioneers who maybe you haven't even heard of or know anything about, to know that there's all these other options out there. So, Dr. Woodruff, please introduce yourself and what you do a little bit better to our audience.
You bet. It's funny some people might not have heard of me in the States, but I'm becoming a hit over in Kenya and Uganda. I'm doing a lot of work over in Africa, and they've taken to my different programs. And so I'm almost getting like celebrity status over there. So whenever I'm feeling down about that no one knows me here, I just go back to Africa.
Well, somebody told me that West Africa might be one of the sort of the places that our awakening is really blooming the most. I've heard that before. I don't know if you feel that.
Yeah, well, a lot of Africa is. And it is breaking free of the colonialism. Now, I don't necessarily mean the resources, but the colonial mind frame. They were subjugated to be subjects of the empire, whether it's Britain, Spain, France.
Yeah.
And that affects how they see the outside world. And they're getting more comfortable in their identity. You got to realize most of these countries did not break free until the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Wow.
And that's a relatively short period of time for them to grow their own identity. And so, they actually are embracing change because they get to have it now, finally. I think one of the things that we do is we take for granted opportunity. And when you never hear that knock on your door, like let's say in Africa, when you finally hear that first knock, you're opening that door.
Okay.
And over here, we tend to already start to say, well, maybe it's too good to be true, or we just find reasons not to even deal with the opportunity.
Do you think it's because we have too many opportunities? I know one of the things that I think of as the ego is something that loves a lot of preferences, right? So when I think of marketing, we have 20 flavors of Doritos, right? And they're coming up with more and more flavors of the same thing because I feel like our ego wants this sort of illusionary idea that I have all this choice and I have all of this, opportunity in front of me. But yet maybe you're saying in America, we're overwhelmed with overwhelmed with opportunity and don't even recognize it anymore, or don't know how to sift through, what is an ego opportunity and what is a soul opportunity.
Absolutely. 100%. We love choices, but then we tend to get paralyzed with that choice.
Yeah. So weird.
Right? Yeah, we do. But it's knowing that we're free. And I think that goes back to actually our soul. Our soul wants to be free.
Yes.
And the ego has a way of constraining our soul.
Yes.
And so when we have all these choices, we're like, wow, I'm free.
I could pick cherry Coke instead of regular Coke. It's not real freedom. It's not real freedom.
But it gives us the illusion.
Yeah, and so you're saying in Africa, they are experiencing a wave of real soul-based freedom that is allowing you to bring something so revolutionary to them that in America, people might just walk by.
Yeah, and you know what? Let's I always sometimes my analogies are bad win, and I apologize ahead of time, but I do love to use them.
Okay.
So I'm going to throw the skunk on the table, and we're going to talk about the smell.
Okay.
Being a chiropractor, many people thought, well, would you go to a school in the strip mall,
Yeah.
and night school? No, being a chiropractor, it's a fully accredited 4-year degree, a doctorate, and it's the same accrediting agency that does med schools. It is a legit education. It is a legit occupation. The problem is that what chiropractors do under the guise of chiropractic has led to, wow, these guys are quacks. And I have a fun story about quacks, but that's for another time. You know what? I'll make you bring me back on by withholding that.
Yeah.
So, like chiropractors will like have crystals and let's put this pyramid on your head. And all of a sudden everybody's like, whoa. But actually chiropractic was a physics-based approach to proper function of joints.
Okay.
And over the years, it has gotten to that point. And it's also all about economics. The number one reason why anybody sees any healthcare professional is for low back pain. Number one reason.
Really?
So, yes.
Wow.
So if you think the medical industry is going to say, yeah, go see a chiropractor, well, you're wrong.
Wow.
And so whenever you want to defeat opponent, first thing you do is ignore them. When you can't ignore them, then you mock them. When you can't mock them anymore, you aggressively go after them. And matter of fact, yeah. And in the United States Federal Appellate Court, the chiropractic industry won a case against the American Medical Association for restraint of trade with unfair practices.
Wow.
And yeah. But it's financial. It's financial. But so we go to free. We want to choose. We want to have that freedom. Okay, when we choose things.
Yeah.
And so, as a chiropractor over there in Africa, they don't know. They don't have those prejudices. They don't have the rhetoric. And rhetoric ties into ego. And I'll get into that once I finish this. Is that because they don't know, I went to see government officials. I went into medical schools to their staff, and they were overwhelmed with the science I brought to them.
Really?
Oh, yes. My science is impeccable. One of the things I've learned is to always be straightforward and honest and, not be bound by, I sound like an egomaniac. When I'm a genius, I'm off the board genius. Okay. But it's true. And that's caused me a lot of problems, by the way. It's a double-edged sword. But the science I brought was incredible. They saw an opportunity. They enjoyed what I have. They didn't say, oh, but wait, you're a chiropractor, huh?
Yeah.
Right. And so they are more open because they don't bring in these prejudices.
Yeah.
And it's just been really fascinating to see them embrace that.
Wow. So how did you get to this point? I mean, you had said you'd had some formative experiences as a youngster that helped you start to discern, I am not an ego, or I have an ego, or, tell us about that.
Yeah, you bet. Actually, my life story is about trying to ditch my ego and to release my soul. That's my life story.
Me too. Amen.
Yeah. I think for all of us it is, but we don't really realize it.
No, because we didn't know we made one. We didn't know it's made up. We didn't know. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So when we're children, we start to get formed by parents, teachers, preachers, peers.
Yeah.
My family, my father was a high level executive for Firestone Tire and Rubber. And so, of course, appearances meant everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so already, my ego started to get formed. I got pushed into sports and to do, that. And I didn't want to originally. And then I became really good at it. So why not? But what I found is that I had more kickback than anybody else. I was a black sheep. I refused to knuckle under that way. And I think part of what happened to me because there was two events in my life when I was younger that really shaped me. One, I had a horrible overbite.
Okay.
I was bucktooth Barney. Kids were cruel back then. You didn't have this no bullying. And so what I found is no matter how much I tried to fit in, I never could.
Hmm.
And so all the defense mechanisms of the ego were basically pointless.
Okay.
So I learned to validate myself.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Because I knew how great I was. I don't know why, but I did.
So do you look back at that being sort of a soul connection that just was much stronger than you?
Yes, Wynn, that's where I'm going to. And what it was my soul was inside saying, no, we are meant to do more.
Yes.
We are better than this. Now,
yeah. Love it.
I'm not getting in here to define God. We all attribute God as the way we believe it to be. And that is everybody's right. And who knows who's right, who's wrong.
Yeah.
But for me, I started talking to God at an early age.
Okay.
Now, a lot of people will say, oh yeah, I talked to God. Well, they prayed and they felt like something. No, when I actually talked to God, I still do.
Wow.
And sometimes I don't like it because he compels me and tells me to do things that are really uncomfortable for me, but I have to do it. One great example of this is I shut down all 3 of my clinics last year to promote the Vibrate Away the Spark system.
Wow.
And to set this in motion into Africa. So I basically gave up everything I had. Wow. Am I mad? No. But when God wants you to do something, it's like a kettle drum in my head. I can't get it to stop until I do it.
Yeah.
And so when I was little, God would talk to me. And my soul knew that I was supposed to do far greater things. And I just knew that I was touched to do something, but I didn't know how. Then when I was a teenager, the ego's craving for safety, security, and stability was totally shattered in my life.
Wow.
My parents and my older brother, we lived in Atlanta, Georgia at the time. We were living up near Akron, Ohio. So one night, as I was about ready to get to bed, my mom and my brother were in the living room, and I come down, and my mom said, yes, I'm divorcing your father. Your Uncle John will be driving down. He'll be here tomorrow morning, and he's going to drive us back up to Ohio.
Wow.
So in a 24-hour period, I went from thinking that I had a stable, secure, happy family to being ripped away without being able to say goodbye to my father, to my friends, and being driven up to Ohio.
Oh my gosh, you didn't even say goodbye.
No.
Wow.
I wasn't given that opportunity.
Wow.
But this is the resiliency in me. So Dan thought to himself, well, what are we going to do with this? And I actually used it. See, I learned at a very early age that what we see as security isn't.
Well, you say the ego sees as security isn't.
Right, exactly. Yes, so what we perceive, the most holy of all things that is only taken away from death, for a child, you don't even think of that. Gone in a second, So what that did is that made me search for what is stability. Does it even exist? And guess what I found out? I'm stability.
Yes.
Me, myself, and I are always stable, and we will always be fine.
Yeah. So you had built an ego as a child, a feeling that my dad's, fancy job and our nice house and our images and my friends and the family unit was my stability. And you said I didn't really have to build any defense mechanisms because which a lot of people do, right? And maybe we could even call your defense mechanism a self self-validation. I mean, that can be a form of, a defense mechanism. Like, I know I do matter, and maybe not understanding how you matter in relation to the universe, but matter in general, right? And then you move and you decide, okay, so if all of this stability is in me, then what is making me breathe? What wants me here? What is the direction that I'm going?
Yeah, it's about the higher purpose, and I don't know if that win was a defense mechanism as much as what I learned early on is if you change it, the same amount of people in life are going to like you, and the same amount of people, and a certain amount of people will hate you.
Yeah.
Now, if you change who you are, the same amount of people will like you, and the same amount of people will hate you, but they'll just be different. So
That's
by changing me, I'm just changing my demographics, you know.
Yeah.
And so that kind of stuck with me. But yeah, what happened is it really, I believe that these events were allowed to happen in my life so it could unleash my soul.
Yeah.
And one of the things is I cannot stand to see anything, whether it's people, pets, insects, anything suffer or be in pain.
Hmm.
I
When did
actually
that, was that your
I
whole
fall
life?
to pieces. What's that?
Was that your whole life?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
As long as you can remember, your soul would point out the suffering of animals or people.
Yes. I mean, I think the movie is Sounder. I
Hmm.
saw it one time as a child. I've never seen it again, nor will I ever watch it.
Huh.
Where they had to shoot the dog, and I'm like,
Oh.
yeah, yeah. It bothers my soul.
Hmm.
Um, I hate to see suffering and pain,
Yeah.
and that has driven me.
So how did you end up in sports broadcasting? Was that an egoic choice at some point in your life, veering
Well,
away from that?
well, frankly, it was easy. Like I told you, I love to talk. I can do this.
Yeah.
And sports I was really good at, but it was something that was easy. I didn't have to think about it.
Hmm.
Um, I was really good at science. As a matter of fact, I had aced one of the college preps in the science. I got a perfect score, and they were sending me all kinds of scholarship offers, and I'm like, nah. Imagine how disappointed my parents were. I'm like, I don't like it. I don't like chemistry. Now look at me.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, so it was easy. I got to express myself, which probably
Okay.
I didn't do enough of when I was little.
Okay. So it might have been even though it's not your purpose, it could have been a little detour the soul wanted you to take to be able to be so comfortable expressing yourself. Because one day you're going to go to Africa and speak to people vehemently about what it is that you're doing, and just keep trying. I guess when you think of the power of expressing your truth, that really could have been more of your soul's journey rather than just an egoic expression of
I
anything.
I think so.
Okay.
I love your perspective on it, and that's kind of how I see it too. Everything that's happened in my life has prepared me to be where I am now. Uh,
Yeah.
and that is a mission for my soul. It is my soul's existence.
Yeah. So how did you end up going into chiropractic school? Like, how did that transition occur?
I was walking down the street. Some guy opened his jacket. "Psst, hey, Bub, you want to go to school now?" or I watched Sally Struthers on TV. No, here's what happened: is I had I was working in the financial industry, and I was living out in Phoenix, Arizona, and I had also split time out in Los Angeles, and I developed these headaches, and I called them suicide headaches. I had them every day of my life for 2 straight years.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so I lived like Elvis or Howard Hughes. I would have tinfoil in my windows. I would keep my house at 68 degrees. I would somehow work, come home, lie in bed, and prayed for death. And that was
Oh
my
my
life for 2 years.
gosh.
I had every medical test and procedure done. And so when they realized that no, it's all psychological because we couldn't fix it, they sent me to a psychiatrist. Took a
Oh my
ride on the
goodness.
Xanax Express,
Yeah.
and was dopey but still had headaches. So then I got tricked into seeing a chiropractor. And yeah, it's true. I thought they were quacks.
Yeah.
And so what happened is I walked in and the guy said, so, and he came out smiling like a Cheshire cat. He said, I hear you're having headaches. And I stood up and I pointed at him. I said, Bone Cruncher, keep away from me. You're not going to touch me.
Sure.
And this was before the Dr. Phil became big. He said, well, you've been doing it your way for 2 years. How's that working out?
Yeah.
And I said, keep talking, Bone Cruncher. So needless to say, after a few weeks, my headaches went away.
Wow.
Yeah. And see, what he had said to me is he said, the problem is your pelvis, you have one leg shorter than your other. And I'm like, wow, this guy really is a quack. I have a headache and he's looking at my hips. But because of that, my brain made the final correction in my posture at the head and neck.
Oh my God.
So no matter what they did, I kept having headaches. So as he got to know me, he said, Dan, you are super smart. You need to go back to you need to go to chiropractic college and do this.
Wow.
And usually, are you familiar with the malaise of genius?
Mm-mm.
The malaise of genius is you get bored with everything so quickly, you got to move on.
Oh, yeah, that I could see. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, why not? Let's do it. So I went to chiropractic college. It was a good education. And I came out and kind of felt very disillusioned. I realized that we get this wonderful education in sciences. It was beautiful. And then we go out and we smash down vertebra. And that's it. And I'm like, wait a minute, isn't there something more with all of this?
Yeah.
And there wasn't. So I basically became a glorified aspirin. And I had two choices. Okay, first off, is this my ego being smashed? Well, a little bit. I'd like to think that I didn't have much of an ego anymore, but what remained, maybe it did. But that wasn't it. See, I would work on people and I do amazing work on them, but they come back every 2-3 weeks. That's why you always hear.
It didn't last. It didn't last. Yeah.
And so I was faced with, well, do I jump into another occupation or do I try to change this one? So instead of leaving, I decided to try to change an industry.
Okay.
And I did. And they don't like it.
I bet, right? Because that's how you make your money, right? Is to have someone come back every 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. When I thought, I'm very naive because I believe in our purpose is to help one another. Yeah. The real reason why we are here is to be vessels of unconditional love.
I agree with that.
Yeah. God is unconditional love. We are God. We come from him. That is our soul. It is the divine essence of God. And so we need to be showing that. And so,
well, and to your point, I think that what you're saying is we need to remember that even if it's good for my family, if people keep coming back every week for therapy, like in my case, I think what I should ultimately aspire to do is to have no clients.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Or to have your clients leave. I mean, like to your point, there's plenty of suffering in the world for all of us to be working, on whoever is willing to try something extraordinary, such as what you're doing,
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. And one of the things I tell my son is when you know better, you have to do better.
Mm-hmm.
Once, if you know better and you do not do better, then you are lying. You are lying to yourself and you're lying to the Lord.
That's your ego, which it feels the need to have stability and protection, and comes in the form of money often, right? Or relationships or whatever. And to I just in the interest of time, I really want to hear what you do now. What do you do now?
Well, what happened when is that inability to correct people made me take a look at why can't we get people out of pain and keep them out? And my research took me into the medical world, to every discipline.
Yeah.
And so what I looked at is, look, there are so many more brilliant people out in the world than me, but you would have think that they would have come up with the answer by now, don't you? I mean, we can go to Mars, we can, all these things, but yet we can't get rid of pain. So to me, I thought, then we obviously aren't looking at the problem correctly. We just keep focusing on trying to make a better solution.
Mm-hmm.
So here is the problem. Healthcare looks at everything as single cause, single effect, single solution. They go to the site of dysfunction or pain as the problem.
Okay. You mean like if it's your lower back, they look at your lower back?
Yeah, if my right knee hurts, it's got to be my right knee.
Yeah.
But if I take a pencil and snap it in half and I say, Win, what's wrong with this pencil?
It's in two pieces.
Yeah, you'd be like, well, dummy, it's broke in the middle.
Yeah.
I would say wrong. That is the effect of the problem. The problem is I have a hand here and the hand here pushing an upward force. That is the problem. And so healthcare has been trying to fix the middle of pencils since time eternal.
Wow. That's a good visual. I like that. I like that. Good visual.
And so what I have done is I have realized that the brain makes accommodations to the musculoskeletal system that causes pain. Like, for example, we always want to blame, like you said, low back, like a disc.
Yeah.
I'll have people come in and say, well, it's my disc acting up. Well, when did you have, a herniated disc? Oh, 17 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Well, we don't cut our hand and bleed for 17 years.
No.
Well, tissue on the inside heals at about the same rate.
Okay.
So what's causing the pain? The pain is being caused by the brain making an accommodation to that injury.
Okay.
What healthcare doesn't understand, what people don't understand, is once the brain gives you an accommodation, it never undoes it.
Oh, why is that? Why does the brain not understand that the piece is healed?
Well, I'm going to put it back into a real basic form for sake of time, okay? But what happens is when you feel pain in an area, okay, so let's say I slam my hand on my desk. It hurts, okay?
Yeah.
But there's a part of my brain that gets nerve signals from my body that tell me where I am in time and space.
Okay.
So if I'm on a boat and I hit a swell, I rock. Well, the brain feels the swell, it feels what my body's doing, and it all of a sudden makes an accommodation so I don't fall down.
Okay.
So that's why when you go on a boat, you don't see a whole bunch of people just falling down every time a wave comes.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, well, that is a form of accommodation based on this signal. So when I hurt my hand, my brain can't feel it anymore. Yes, I feel pain. That's a different nerve system. But my brain is saying, oh, my Lord, I've lost my right hand. Guys, I don't have a right hand.
Wait, say that again?
Yeah. When I cause pain to an area, there is a part of the brain that senses pain. And it's like, yeah, the right hand is hurting. Now, there's a part of the brain that has maps.
Okay.
And these maps, one will tell, like, okay, I want to move my right elbow. And the map says, okay, this is the nerve system. This is the route we're going to take. But there's another one that says, okay, this is the right elbow. We're being bent too much. And that goes up to a map.
Okay.
When I hurt my hand, that signal quits coming up to the brain.
Okay.
And the brain's like, oh, I don't know where my hand is. It's lost out in space.
Oh, okay.
I gotta find it.
Okay.
And so what happens is the brain makes accommodations to dissipate that pain. Then it knows where it is.
Oh, wow. Interesting. I've never heard that explained.
Yes,
like
absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I get amazing results. See, it has to deal with homeostasis. Now, I know you're very familiar with homeostasis.
Yeah.
But to break it down to make it easy, homeostasis is basically saying that the brain wants every system that we have to be stable, to operate as stable. And you can think of it as a thermostat. I set my temperature at 68. If it goes above, it shuts down. If it goes below, it kicks up.
Right.
And with the musculoskeletal system, homeostasis is that you're stable, that you won't fall down.
Okay.
So if the same mechanism, let's say I stub my right baby toe, the brain's going to roll my foot in so I'm not putting weight on that baby toe. Okay. Well, now I'm unstable. That's not how the body was designed. So the brain's got to make all these accommodations to stabilize me.
Wow.
And then 2 years down the road, my hip hurts. I'm like, I didn't do anything. And they're like, well, you had to have done something. And I'm like, whoa, geez. It's a result of the accommodation.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a very complex system, but it's all controlled by the brain. So what I've done now is I've also taken a lot of holistic health, utilizing the brain. And we are altering, improving organ functions, so many things. And so even though It's about it's about the communication between the body and the brain, and that back and forth between the two. Whether it's your lungs, whether it's whatever it might be, it's that
So,
communication system.
so for the sake of the podcast, do you believe that there is any level of ego that gets attached to the accommodation and starts to define the body as this broken thing, or this, like you said, like the guy who has a 17-year-old disc injury? Does the ego say somewhere in the middle of there, sort of say, oh, I'm the guy who has a 17-year-old disc injury, so it must be that, and isn't open to hearing what you're saying? Is that something you come across?
Okay. Oh, absolutely. And here's the thing too, Wynn, and why I'm so fascinated with what you do and love it, is you can't separate the mind from the body.
Right.
Healthcare, no matter what, even chiropractic, because we just want to smash a bone down.
Yeah.
Healthcare wants to isolate. This
Absolutely.
is too complex of a system. It can't be. So we have what you're talking about in two ways. One is called a deconditioning syndrome. So what happens is your conscious mind is going to limp on purpose, say, oh, it hurts. And pretty soon the subconscious brain says, you know what? I got it. Don't worry about it. I know what's going on. I'll take over. You'll never have to think about it again.
The
And
limp.
now I walk that way forever.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
There's also an ego component. And that ego I see come in when somebody needs attention, love. This is very common with elderly patients.
Okay.
So you have, I have a lot of patients that don't want me to get them better.
Wow.
But what they want is to go through the process to prove to everybody that they can't be fixed.
Oh my gosh. I really think you just hit something on the head right there when you said that.
Yes.
That's the ego. That's the ego. Absolutely. Right there.
Yes, absolutely. Because here's what happens is people want to be loved.
Yes.
People want attention. And for a lot of people, the pity attention, that's the best they can do. So they're going to grab into it. So, like, oh, God love old Sadie. Look at her over there. She's 82 and her back is just killing her. She's riddled with arthritis, but she's baked 3 pies. Oh, Sadie, how do you do it? And she's, And Dr. Dan comes away and says, nah, I can take all that pain away from you. Yeah. She's gone after 2 visits. First one to see what it is. Second one, it's like, oh my gosh, it's working. Boom, I never see her again. And that's okay. That's okay.
And so what exactly are you doing in the session with someone? Is it too complicated to explain?
Well, and what's really neat when it's the musculoskeletal component, it is a series of sequential applications of vibration. It's a pattern. You ever hear the line, the brain is like a computer? Well, it is. Yeah. And so the stimulus that the brain, you have to give the brain for it to make a change is like code. And if I'm programming a computer and I get something, just one character off, the code won't work. And computer doesn't change. Same thing with the brain. So it's a very specific application, like a sequence. But what is so great is it is so simple that anybody can do it. See, I am trying to revolutionize this. It is about healthcare for you, by you.
Wow.
Everything I do is I am teaching people to do it to themselves. We are training and certifying people to actually apply the vibrate-away technique, and that's the vibrational thing. Because you have to do it to somebody. They can't do it to themselves. But you can do it for each other. You can do it for your loved ones. We have something called the Spark system, and that's I always forget these. Oh, acronyms and I just don't get along.
Well, okay.
My wife's going to kill me. But anyways, the Spark system is more of a total holistic. See, holistic has been cheapened. Everybody uses holistic because it's a buzzword.
Yeah.
If I'm a chiropractor and I smash some bones in your spine, I call it a holistic approach. No, it's not. Yeah. No, that's isolated. Or if I'm a naturopath, I'm holistic. No, you're doing one approach. You're prescribing a chemical to alter a body process.
Yeah.
That's medical care without a pharmaceutical. It's not
Yeah.
holistic. It might be alternative, but it's not holistic. So what we've
Yeah.
done, and my mind, when I say holistic, Jack, it's holistic. I mean, it goes back to the definition. It goes back to the denotation, not the erroneous connotation that we have applied to it.
So the last thing that I want to ask you to describe is, what is the definition of holistic then?
Wow. That is really good. So I'm going to tell you what it is. But I'm going to tell you in the way that I want to frame it. Holistic is about making the body as a whole unit run optimally.
Okay. I love it.
It is not about troubleshooting problem areas.
Okay.
It is about elevating the body as a whole because it runs as a whole.
Love it.
And see, here's the thing. We will never eradicate viruses, bacteria, fungi. They will live long past any human being.
Yeah.
Yet our healthcare approach is to eradicate disease, to eradicate this.
Yes.
When we should be focusing on building up the host. Let's build up our body so it doesn't matter what's out there. It's not going to get me.
Love it.
Yes.
That's the terrain theory versus the germ theory that I learned about in Arkansas.
Yeah. The germ theory.
That's another podcast. Okay, well, thank you so much for, I think you've dropped enough things in this podcast that someone might actually come and find you. Where do they find you?
Oh, yeah, let me get that. And I won't screw it up because my wife's watching. She's going to be like, I can't believe you didn't tell him. Okay. I do have that absent-minded professor thing going on.
Right?
Okay, so they can email us at info@vibrataway.com.
Okay.
You can call 989-942-1157.
You have to be the last person in the history of humanity that gives out their phone number.
I'm old school, baby. I'm old school. And just to let you know, it's not mine. And we're on Vibrate Away. And if people want, they can join our Vibrate Away empowerment community there.
And is that just a website, Vibrate Away?
Yeah, we have a Vibrate Away website, but we're also on Facebook under Vibrate Away. And then she has the Vibrate Away empowerment community.
All right.
I do specific. I treat 4 patients a month maximum.
Okay.
Because my sessions are very intensive to actually work on somebody and to give them the love and the healing that they need. I spend a lot of time, like 3-hour sessions.
Wow.
Yes, because that is what healthcare is. It's not 15 minutes. Here's a drug. Call me when you need to feel better.
Yeah.
No, I take my time. And so it's a 60-day process, not visits, but calendar days.
Yeah.
Visits can range from 5 to 20 visits, but so I do a select few of only 4 people because my travel and everything else that I'm getting into to spread this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So people have to be all in.
You know what? Here's what I'm going to tell people. We've done the traditional healthcare system, no matter what discipline, for how long?
Yeah.
And how's it working for us? You know what?
That's so great.
Our well-being is a commodity, and we need to wake up and smell the roses. Because when we're in pain and when we are suffering, our soul, which is housed inside this body, which is a temple for our soul, cannot be bright, cannot be brilliant. And we all are. We all are.
I agree.
And we need to let it go and quit being scared and quit being hung up on our ego, for crying out loud. Get over yourself. Get over yourself.
Amen, Dr. Woodruff. On that, we're going to end. And so thank you so much for being here. And I hope you have a great rest of your day wherever you are in the world.
Thank you. I'm in cold Michigan.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Wynn. And